There are great races, and there are also great little races. And the Brabantse Pijl is one of those. It attracts fabulous names and always entertains. Been going since 1961, but yet it's full of those with hope and indeed endeavour. Remco Evenepoel, one of those. He's racing at home. How will he go? It's a big question. Wout van Aert clearly out to stop him. Tom Pidcock likewise. Joe Blackmore, Del Grosso, Nelson Paulus, you name it. This is what they're taking on. Well, not the mightiest of tests, you might say, with just around 170 kilometres to complete. But it's the loop at the end of 21 Hellingen along the way that really is where it counts. Well, they waved them off in beautiful sunshine, and thankfully that weather was locked in for the day. Likewise with the ambition of a breakaway, and well, it went off very quickly. Bloem from Unibet, we had Dens from Flanders, Leto from Caja Rural, Holt was there for UnoX, Soto from Equipo Kern-Pharma, Wagner as well with Reinders represented. And the break held station for, well, quite some time. In fact, when we were coming into our grand finale, others were setting off in hot pursuit, trying to show their ambition before we got to our 19-kilometre loop at the end of the day. This was where the real tests began, including the big climbs as well that had to be negotiated, not least the Mokkerstraat, with its cobbles, yes sure, but very narrow entry. And what it meant was that every single time we had a race just to get onto the obstacles themselves. This caused a compression within the peloton, panic you might say, and those who had teammates to spare started to use them right now. And then, of course, the cream always rises to the top, and Thies Benoot was doing a slingshot job for Wout van Aert. He knew that he had to power away when it came to the climbs and maybe give himself some wriggle room for later on. Well, with 48 kilometres to go, it was a question of who on earth would open up the taps, and that man, of course, Remco Evenepoel. Injured by getting into contact with a postal van in December, well, there seemed to be absolutely no problem at all in leaving everyone behind, almost. But Van Aert went with him, and so did Joe Blackmore. Brilliant, the youngster extricated himself from the pack. The pack were busy thinking, this is surely too far out for anyone to go. Maybe we should preserve our energies, and that was their mistake, because energy was what these three had in abundance. It was remarkable. Well, Wout van Aert, after such a busy programme for he, came into the S's here, leading to our final climb, and of course, the start of those countdown laps. 3 to be taken in total. A long way to go, even to the bell. And everyone was thinking, well, I'm not going to do the chasing. You do the chasing. Well, that argument raged as these guys started to establish a gap of around about 50 seconds. Every single time a team picked it up, like Unibet, Titema, Rockets, they did it on their own. There was no cohesion in the chase. The only cohesion stayed up front. Aaron Burrow was there trying to get into the gap. Dylan Turns had tried to help himself without his teammate. That didn't go very well. And still they stayed out front. Well, the gap looked to have been moderated at just shy of a minute. Would it carry all the way to the line was the big question. Alpecin de Koenig had missed the Rouge, trying to get into position for Del Grosso. Verstringer as also was there as part of the ambition that they were displaying, and there were plenty of others as well. EF Education Easy Post with Nielsen Paulus had come so close in the past. Likewise Marijn van der Berg. What were they doing? Well, the S-Bocht is the last climb of the day, but it had to be taken, of course, 3 times as part of the scenario. Tom Pidcock was starting to pedal squares, and when the bell finally tolled, still the 3 of them were up front. Blackmore helping out in all of his turns until, of course, he couldn't help anymore. Then it was a question of Evenepoel and Van Aert trying to help themselves. Joe Blackmore went back to the pack. They pushed into his gap while these guys held on around about half a minute. The crowds were out in force on the major climbs, and then bravery was required. Alex Baudin set off in hot pursuit, but it was lukewarm in the end. It was always going to be about these two. They had enough of a gap to make it count. Baudin was about to be wound in by those behind. A very thinned out peloton, as you can see. Well, the altitude gain on the day was not the highest at 1,677 metres, and the distance not too arduous, you might say, but don't forget Wout van Aert, 4th in Flanders, 4th in Paris-Roubaix. That's got to have a cost, surely. Maybe something Remco Evenepoel, as he opened his season, was going to try and exploit. In a two-up sprint, surely Wout van Aert would be the favourite, but you can never count on home support, and Remco Evenepoel had so much of that. Oborna tagged. It was a two-up chase, as you can see, but those behind as well still believed that they could maybe wrestle for a podium place. Blackmore had already been absorbed, and we were absorbing this. The finale everybody wanted. Wout van Aert against Remco Evenepoel. Van Aert the favourite in the perfect position. He'd sat in with 2 kilometres to go, wasn't offering up a turn to Remco Evenepoel, and the pair of them kind of looking at each other constantly. Oh, this was drama personified. The fans were out in force. This is precisely what they wanted. Who would light it up first? The answer was Evenepoel. He went. Wout van Aert out of the saddle. How on earth could he not pass him by? Suddenly plonked back into the saddle, then out of it again, then back in. He was empty, and Remco Evenepoel delivered. Wow, what a result that was. Phenomenal. Best of enemies, I think you might say, and the emotions just poured out of this man. Remco Evenepoel, back after what had been such a difficult approach to this race. Well, they duked it out behind. Morgado, third home, but everyone will remember the two-up sprint between Van Aert and Evenepoel, and the fact that the little guy went big when it mattered. Absolutely superb. Well, if this acts as a bouche amuse to what is to come here in the Ardennes, we are in for one hell of a treat. And as for Evenepoel, he is back, and not only that, he's at his best. You've got to love it. Evenepoel taking it home, Wout van Aert, Morgado in third place, Aramburu, the Spanish champion, leading home Prades and the rest. The Brabantse Pijl, amazing as ever. Heroes, every single one of them. We are blessed.